Good morning. Happy virtual Tuesday. I apologize for the delay in posting this video. The first one that I did not record my voice, and so I felt like that would be a little confusing to you, so I have redone the video. What we are going to be doing today is looking at a factoring refresher. We learned how to factor to some extent in Algebra 1, but I want to refresh our brains to get us ready to go on to the next topic. So up until this point, we have learned about how to write quadratic expressions in standard form. And standard form of a quadratic expression is ax squared plus bx plus c. We have also learned how to write a quadratic expression in vertex form. Vertex form is a times x minus h squared plus k. Now both of these forms we're familiar with because we handled them last week. But now we're going to talk about a new form, and this new form is called factored form. In factored form, we are writing our standard form in a condensed way. So this would be a plus, or x plus a times x plus b, where a and b do not correspond to the ab in standard form. Very important. The AB in standard form is not the same as the AB in factored form. So let's look. As an example, we have 1x squared plus 8x plus 16. The way that we are going to handle taking a quadratic expression from standard form to factored form is we're going to use our factored cross. So the very first thing we need to do, as usual, is to identify our A, B, and C. Our A is understood. It's what's in front of the quadratic term. And so that's an understood 1. So our A is 1. Our B is positive 8. And our C is positive 16. So therefore, we can put this in a factor cross. Our factor cross is simply an x. And what goes on top of your x is A times C. So in our situation, it's 1 times 16, which is a positive 16. And what the question is that we're asking ourselves is, what are the factors of a positive 16 that will add to be b, which in this case is a positive 8. So we will start by noticing, first of all, that our positive 16 is positive. So that means that when we multiply two numbers together to get positive 16, they either both have to be positive or they both have to be negative. But then when we look at what we're adding together and the sum of the two factors that we're adding together are positive. And so therefore, this has to be a positive and a positive to multiply to get a positive and add to be a positive. So let's list our factors of 16. 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. And so what are the factors if we added positive 1 and positive 16? Well, that would equal 17, so that's not correct. Positive 2 and positive 8, well, that would equal 10. That's not correct. But positive 4 and positive 4, that equals positive 8. So those are our factors. So we can write this in factored form now. X plus 4 times x plus 4, or x plus 4 squared. And the only reason I wrote it as squared is because this is an understood 1, and anytime you're multiplying like bases, you just add your exponent. Now we can double check this by putting it in what we call an area model, or using the box method. So quadratic, we've been working with quadratic expressions. And we know that quad, even though when we say quad it makes us think of 4, quad really means square. And so the reason why we call these quadratics is because your highest exponent, your variable, is squared. So we have that x squared term. And then expression, of course, it's an expression because we don't have, does not include equal sign. And so for it to be an equation, it has to have that equal sign. Let me show you how to double check your solution. So we have x plus 4 times x plus 4. So we're taking our first term and placing it along the top, and our second term and placing it along the side. So now we're just going to multiply using the area formula. Area is equal to length times width. So we have x times x, which is x squared. Once again, multiplying like bases and adding the exponents. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times x is 4x. And then 4 times 4 is 16, positive. So now we're going to bring it out of our box. We have x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. Just try to clean this up a little bit. So now we can combine our like terms. We have two linear terms, and that gives us x squared plus 8x plus 16. Go back up, see if that checks. X squared plus 8x plus 16, x squared plus 8x plus 16. Perfect. It does check. For example number 2, let's look at x squared minus 2x minus 3. If we list our a, b, and c, a is equal to 1, understood 1. Our b is equal to negative 2, and our c is equal to negative 3. Very important to always carry your signs with your a, b, and c. So now our question is, what are the factors? So we know this is going to be x and x to get that x squared term. What are the factors of a times c, which is negative 3, simply 1 times a negative 3, that will add to be b, which is negative 2. So let's look. Our factors of a negative 3, if we want to multiply and have the product equal a negative, then we know one of our numbers needs to be negative. So our factors of a negative 3 is 1 and 3. And one of those has to be negative. But when we sum them up, we want them to equal to negative 2. So since the sum of the two factors is a negative, the larger of the two factors has to be a negative. So negative 3 plus 1 equals a negative 2. So those are our factors. Now we're going to check. We have x plus 1, x minus 3. And it doesn't matter which way that you place them. So now we're going to apply our area model. We've got x times x, which is x squared. We've got x times a positive 1, which is x. We've got x times a negative 3, which is negative 3x. And then we have a positive 1 times a negative 3, which is negative 3. If we bring it out of our box, we have x squared minus 3x plus x minus 3. Combine our like terms. We have x squared minus 2x minus 3. Verify that that's the same as our standard form. It is, and so we check. Example number 3. We have x squared plus 11x plus 18. And so, as always, we start with A, B, and C. Our C is a positive 18, our B is 11, and our A is 1. So what are the factors of A times C, which is 1 times 18, that will add to BB? So we know that our 18 is positive. So we need our factors to be either both negative or both positive. So we got 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. And we want to add to be a positive 11. So for us to have the sum as a positive, then both numbers are going to have to be positive because they have to multiply to be a positive. So let's look. The sum of 18 and 1 is 19. So that's not our factors. The sum of 9 and 2 is a positive 11. So that would work. And the sum of 3 and 6 is a positive 9. So that wouldn't work. So these are our factors. Positive 9, positive 2. We could write it in factored form. X plus 2 times x plus 9. Check your work. Go to your area model. X plus 2, x plus 9. We have x squared, x times x. 2 times x is 2x. 9 times x is 9x. And then 9 times 2 is positive 18. So if we bring it out, we have x squared. And then combine on our diagonal, 9x plus 2x is plus 11x plus 18. Is that the same? X squared plus 11x plus 18. Check. Example number 4. We have x squared minus 8x minus 9. Once again, our A, B, and C. A is an understood 1. B is a negative 8. And C is equal to a negative 9. Do our factor cross. We've got A times C, which is 1 times a negative 9. That would add to be a negative 8. which is our b. So let's look at the factors of negative 9. We have let me not put my negatives in there yet. So we have 1 and 9, and that's it. So now we need to look at our signs. We know that when we multiply together, we want to get negative 9. So that means that one of the numbers are going to have to be negative and the other one has to be positive. We know that when we add the factors together, we want the sum to equal a negative number. So that tells us that the larger one has to be negative. So now we have x plus 1 times x minus 9. Let's check our work. X plus 1, x minus 9. That gives us x squared plus x minus 9x minus 9. Bringing it out, we have x squared plus x minus 9x minus 9. X squared, 1x minus 9x is a negative 8x minus 9. Is that what we started with? Yes. So check. Number 4. Or should it be number 5? Yes, it should be number 5. I added in an example from my original video. So y'all get an extra treat. X squared minus 10x plus 16. Identify our A, B, and C. A is 1, B is negative 10, and C is a positive 16. So our question that we ask is, what are the factors of a positive 16 that will add to be a negative 10? Well, let's list the factors of a positive 16. We have 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. We know that we want to multiply to be a positive and add to be a negative. So that means if our sum is going to be negative, then both numbers need to be negative, because a negative multiplied by a negative is equal to a positive, and a negative added to a negative is a negative. So that would satisfy our positive 16 and our negative 10. So now let's look and see. We have negative 1 plus negative 16. Well, that would be a negative 17, so that doesn't work. Then we have negative 2 plus negative 8. That's a negative 10, so those are our factors. And then just as a double check, negative 4 plus negative 4 would be negative 8, which is not our factors. So we have negative 10, negative 8. Come over here and put it in factored form. Negative 2, negative 8. Sorry, I believe I misspoke. And then check our work. X minus 2, x minus 8. X times x is x squared. X times a negative 2 is negative 2x. X times a negative 8, negative 8x. And then negative 8 times a negative 2 is a positive 16. Combine on your diagonal, and that's going to give you x squared minus 10x plus 16. Does that match? Yes. Check. The last example I have for you today is number 6, and it's x squared plus x minus 30. Following our steps, A is equal to an understood 1, B is equal to an understood 1, and C is negative 30. Draw our factor cross. What are the factors of A times C, which is 1 times a negative 30? That will add to be B, which is 1. So we have negative 30. We know that when we multiply them together, we need a negative, and so that means one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. And we know that when we add them together, we want it to be a positive, so let's keep that in mind as we go through our factors. We have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Since when we add them together, we want them to be a positive. The larger number is going to have to be positive, and the smaller number will be negative. So now we have negative 1 plus 30. That's a positive 29. So that's not our factors. Positive 15 plus a negative 2 is negative 13, or positive 13. Not our factors. We're looking for a positive 1. Negative 3 plus 10 is a positive 7. Nope. And then positive 6 minus 5, that equals a positive 1. So we have our factors. So we have negative 5, positive 6, x minus 5, x plus 6. Check our work. X minus 5, x plus 6. So applying our area formula, we've got x, we've got x times x, which is x squared, x times a negative 5, which is negative 5x, x times 6 is 6x, and then 6 times a negative 5, and that is a negative 30x, or a negative 30. So now if we pull it out, we have x squared. Combine on the diagonals. Positive 6 minus 5 is going to be plus x, because positive 6 minus 5 is 1. And then finally, minus 30. Let's double check to make sure that we match. We do. And so we have successfully found the factored form. Guys, I hope this helps. It's definitely going to be important for tomorrow's lesson when we start converting standard form to vertex form, because you're going to have to know how to factor. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I will look forward to seeing you, or at least talking to you, via video tomorrow. Have a great day. Stay safe and warm.